Good morning, you lovely people. So this is a cylinder off of a DV6 Ford Peugeot engine, little 8 valve. Going to lap the valves in this morning. This is what we'll be using, which you can get from a Motor Factors or Halfords. This is a grinding paste. Oh, sorry, the grinding paste. You have a fine and a coarse. You get the stick as well, obviously a valve. So we lay the valve in the cylinder. You stick this onto here like that. Let's grab a bit of fine. I have ground some of this already, so with a bit of coarse, you just literally get a piece of this on your finger. You just wipe a little bit of that underneath, like so. As you can hear, it's cutting, and it will start to, when you go out, it will cut, and then cut again, and then it'll go. So you'll hear it cutting and then not cutting, like that. It goes quiet, then there's noisy, and you can, because what happens is that the paste displays out, and by doing that bit, it will just put the paste back on the bit where you want to grind. If you're looking for like a matte edge all the way around the seat and the valve, let's get a bit of tissue, just wipe the valve off. I don't know if my camera's going to show you this or not, but hopefully it will. Do make sure you get all the grinding paste out of there, because it will cause you future problems. We know we don't like grinding paste in an engine, it's not good for them. Seat looks good, chuffed with that. Obviously some valves do need a bit more work than others. If you can see that, my camera's not the best, even though it's a good phone. But basically, as you can see there, it's cut a matte edge around the valve. And if I go to the seat, see, that's one that's not been cut. It's got bits of carbon stuck around it. Obviously potentially could lose compression. And then this is one that's cut. Obviously it wants to wipe out, but you can see what I normally do is I do them all, mark them out, I lay them on a piece of wood, number them so you know what side. Always make sure you know what's cambelt end or timing chain end, so you don't get mixed up. And then just lay them out, and then once they're all cut, you just obviously put the stem seals in. This head's got to be faced, because whoever faced it before looks like they've done it with an angle grinder, but the valves do sit low enough that it can be skimmed once the valves are in. So that's the way I'm going to do it today, because I'm pushed for time and my skimmer can't do it till this afternoon. I need to get the van back together. So yeah, let's get it built up and hopefully get it running. Whoop, whoop. People don't realise what actually goes into building engines and so on. They just think they drop it off and then it comes back running. It's very labour intensive, some jobs. There's a bit more goo under there. these epoxy things. Right, so we've got the head back from the skimmers. We're going to put these stem seals on. This is how I do it. Alright, from the camera ends. Right, I just put them inside a socket. Make sure that it sits home nicely. A little bit of oil around the seat, as you can see there. And then you just literally put it on with a little push and on she goes. Like that. That's them all done. Lovely, happy with that. We've got all the valves all laid out, ready to go, and the collets. Obviously I lapped them earlier, so we know what end they're going from and to. Let's get them fitted, eh? Obviously, as you see earlier, I've had the head refaced because it looked like before it'd been done with an angle grinder. I'm going to put the valves in. Let's grab one of these. So generally I'll put a little bit of oil on the stem just before you put it on. Obviously this is the hole it's going to be going in. It's a bit hard to try and hold your phone while you're doing it, so I'll do my best. Just a little bit of oil on the stem. Clean it, run it down, push it in. There you go. That's it in. Turn the head over. And to build it up, so you're going to need a spring which holds the valve stem down. You're going to need the top hat that goes on top, and you're going to need one of these tools. This is a valve compressor. So that slides over the cylinder head. Need to set this one up because it's been set before for another cylinder head, so let's get this right. Right, as you can see I've got the tool on. That holds this down. Then you have these things here called collets. They are shaped and they only go in one way. You need to put a tiny bit of grease just on the inside so they stick. And then let me put some grease on them and I'll be back with you, 2 minutes. So as I was saying, you put a little bit of grease on the inside of the collet, and I normally put a blob of grease on there, and then literally just stick the collet to that like that. And then if you can see, they go in with the widest bit of the collet at the top. You literally just push it in. I normally push them in, push them around a little bit, and then you get the next one. Same again. I find it easy to do it on a screwdriver rather than a magnet, because then when it comes to taking it off, it is a pain in the bum. But a bit of grease. Sometimes you do need to use your fingers, but get in there. They are quite fiddly. And these valve compressor tools, there are different ones for different engines. So this is an 8 valve engine. And the 16 valve ones are different. We'll get that in there, just bear with me. Oh. It's being a pain. They are a pain though sometimes. There she goes. Probably help if I had a torch, I suppose. But they're in. Make sure that's on properly. Yeah, that looks good to me. It says. Hopefully my hands are not in the way and you guys can see. I think that's it. Nope, I've knocked it back out again. They are awkward to get in. Oh, it's in. There you go. And then you just release this slowly. And that's it. Right, till the lights come back out again. We will get that in there in a minute. Don't know why that's not going in there. Right, as you can see there, the collets are in, and then what you do is you slowly release this, just let it, don't knock the collets back off. There you go, and then you slide that off there like that. Just give it a little wipe on the top, make sure they're sat at home properly, as they say. Hope you guys are all having a good day. There you go. That is where it is. There's a bit of grease on top of there, but yeah, that's one done. Now we've got to do the others. As obviously there's the other stem seals in. I'll get this built up and then we'll be back. Right, so that's all the valves in. Obviously give that a little wipe over and a degrease. Oh, let's turn him over. Just make sure all your collets are all sitting nicely on top of your valve seats. We're good to go. I've got to put the exhaust manifold on because that has to go on before it can go into the engine bay. So we'll get that on. And then we'll get the block cleaned up, ready to go. And then we can get the head on today. Right, so that's the cylinder head built up. This is the block cleaned, ready to go. So obviously you've got holes here where the head bolts go. You want to make sure there's no kind of any oil, any fluid or water and so on in these. You need to get an air line and blow them out, because what happens is when you've got a bolt in and there's water in there and you do these up, the water can't go nowhere, so you'll end up either snapping a bolt or you'll end up just cracking the block. And with these DV6 engines, the 1.6 and the 1.5, I normally put a tiny bit of copper grease underneath the back of the bolt because they get stuck on the cylinder head. So if the head ever needs to come off again, what sometimes happens is this piece of the bolt snaps off and they are a nightmare to get out. Obviously a little bit of oil on the bolt or a bit of copper grease. Obviously there is a tightening sequence for them, but we're moving forward to that. Let's get the head on. Right, so all the holes are blown out. There's something missing before I put the gasket on. I wonder who can guess what that is. Anyone notice anything missing? Well, it could be these. These are collets. They sit in the head. You just push them in. They can be a bit tight. One in that side and one in the back there. They're a head gasket locator, and let's give that a little tap. I'll have to go and get something for that, but basically they locate the head gasket. I'll have to tap that one in, and obviously locate the head. Right, so we're putting the head on. One thing to do check is when you get these apart, some of these that have got a head gasket gone, they do suffer, especially on the 160s, from a cracked liner. I've had a few of these now where they crack through here into the water jacket. So obviously just check the tops of these, make sure there's no start of any crack, otherwise when you put the head on, if this goes like unnoticed, it may cause you future problems. Obviously, as I said earlier, put the locating dowels in. All the holes are all cleaned out. Gasket's on. Let's lift the head on, shall we? Right, so that's the head on nicely. Let's get some head bolts in it. So, as I was saying earlier, I'll put a little bit of grease on the bolts just under here, especially these back ones, because obviously they're outside and this lays with water. moisture and so on. You end up snapping the tops of these off, and then they're a pig to get out if you ever come to do one of these. So just a little bit of grease, just a nice little thing to do, ready for the next person if there's ever a time where the head has to come off. These ones ain't so bad because obviously they sit in oil. Put a bit of copper grease on the thread as well. Some people say don't do it, some people do, but that's my opinion. I'll do it. So right, let's get the rest of it back together. So heads on. So if you're doing one of these for the first time, you're an at-home person doing them, obviously always check, make sure you haven't trapped any wires or any plugs anywhere. Nothing worse than getting the head torqued up and there'll be something trapped on the corner, or a little bracket not in the right place or something. But always double check before you torque the head up, because once you've torqued it up, obviously it's done. So I'll have the housing to go on here in a minute, and the fuel pipes. EGR cooler can go back on. We can get some injectors in, start building this ladder frame up with all the rockers. I've got another cam to go in it, because when these break cam belts, the lobes on the cam shaft are sweated on. So basically it's a long thin shaft, and there's a jig, and the lobes are slid onto the cam, and then basically what happens is when they have valve contact, it pushes the lobes around. So you'll think, okay, yeah, we'll get the head off, do the valves, all that stuff, put the belt on, turn the key, and you'll smash all the valves again, because the cam lobe is out of time to where the timing needs to be. So I don't even take the chance with these, because they're too much of an headache to take the chance. But you know, you might get one camshaft out of 100 that'll be okay. But I always change a camshaft, always change the rockers as well. You can get a cam and a set of rockers from a scrapyard. I mean, I bought a cam and rockers for 50 quid from a local scrapyard. I've got cam belt kit, obviously a water pump procedure because obviously the belt was broken, gaskets and stuff. So yeah, hopefully we get this one back together. Let's get this frame back on, get the head torqued up, get some injectors in, turbo back on. Yeah, give us a thumbs up, guys. I am going to be posting lots more stuff. I've got a Range Rover Evoque sitting here. That's going to be an engine rebuild next. I've got a recovery truck, obviously, that I'm doing brakes and all sorts on that. I've got quite a few vehicles. See my other videos. Like I say, give us a thumbs up and give us a like. That'd be great. I appreciate the support, everybody. Right, let's crack on. Right, so we've got the head on. First stage of the torque settings on these are 20 newton meters, then 40 newton meters, then 260 degrees. So what I do is put them down to do the 20, do the 40, and then run back over them again with the 40, because you do find you get the old one that still pulls down that bit more, just so they're all the same. Then I get a paint pen, just an eBay jobby, cheapest chips. Mark these so you know that when you do 240 degrees that all these are absolutely on the money. So let's get these torqued up, then we can start getting some injectors in and start dressing the engine up. Turbo's on, so you've got some 11mm bolts here and there's 2 on the underside. You do need to drop this off to get to the underside ones because the heat shield gets in the way. So yeah, we'll get these torqued up and then let's get back at it. So injectors are in. Excuse me, injectors are in, obviously the turbo is on, inlet manifolds on but not done up yet. Just going to put the cassette on this. It's in 2 pieces, basically it's a cam carrier, but on here, on these, is tiny little rubber seals. I have got them here somewhere. I did put them away. Where did I put them? I've got new ones, but I did put the old ones away just to show you guys. Here they are. So basically, that's not on there properly, but that sits on there like that. Then you put a generous bead of sealer around this piece here to bolt the cassette down to. Then obviously your lifters go in, your rockers and so on. But I'll get the seals on and then we'll go from there. So this is the cassette that goes on top of there. If you've had one that's broke a cam belt, you might want to check through the journals. So basically through this piece here, there's no cracks and so on, and on the piece that goes to the top of this. Obviously check for scoring. Other than that, like I say, bead of sealer all the seals are on, ready to go. Obviously head bolts all torqued up like I showed you earlier. Let's get this bit on. Right, so we got the ladder frame in for the camshaft. Rockers all on, lifters in. Obviously fill the holes where the lifters are with oil, slip them in. Just going to oil these up, lay the camshaft in. Yet again, bead a sealer around here, not too much, but obviously enough to get the coverage. And then torque that down. These bolts around this ladder frame here, it says 12 newton meters, but it's alley, so I've done them to 10 newton meters. And the same will be with the top ladder frame that goes on. Just going to get that cleaned up now, and then we can get that bolted up. Right, so before you put the camshaft in, I use this stuff, assembly lube. Just run a small amount on a journal, just because obviously it takes a little while for oil pressure to come up. There you go. And then obviously before you put the rocker cover on, you just cover all the lifters and rockers with oil, just so when you lay the camshaft in, do make sure that when you put the camshaft in that the piston is not at top dead center. So basically when you put the head on, make sure all the pistons are level, because depending where you put the camshaft, it could open a valve on a cylinder that's up, so you'll end up breaking the rocker when you tighten it down. So yeah, I normally put them level, and then once it's all together, then you can pull the bottom up to TDC, time the top up, and then you can put the belt on. So unfortunately the belt kit I got was the wrong one, so we're going to get a belt kit tomorrow and get that on and get it running. Hey.